And welcome to this week's episode of the Zombie and Ox Comic Hour. Name is my zombie. My name is Zombie. And here's my counterpart.
Hi, I'm Ox. How are you?
I'm Peachy. So it's been an interesting week. Haven't really hit many comic stores, just, my home store. Massively filling up on comics that I need to fill up on and backlog on. So I've covered a bunch of comics and done a bunch of research on all kinds of interesting things. How about you?
I've done fuck all.
Well, thank you for that.
I've actually done very little. I've been consumed with a lot of things, but not actually acting upon most of them.
Yeah. Versus I've been, updating our website. Been out networking with people in the field, and massively updated our store last night.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Ton of gear for both the Ox line and Zombie line of gear in general. Mugs, thermoses for Ox, bags, hoodies, shirts, you name it. You got the Ox logo or you got the Zombie logo. Take your pick and check it out. Let's see. One person I actually ran into that really interesting thing I didn't know about was a guy who works with the Hero Initiative.
Right.
I told you about them.
Mm-hmm.
Great program. Trying to see how we can work with them for future, gigs or anything of that nature. They are a non-for-profit where their main goal is to assist writers and creators of comics once they retire. These are guys who don't have a pension, don't have a, real retirement plan.
Right. And
so it's something that actually helps them, get through life once they're done doing what they do.
Yeah.
So great program, heroinitiative.org. Check it out. It's also a link on our friends page of our website. Let's see, who else did I meet this week? Awesome person, runs a bunch of Twitter feeds, and a editor for a major comic blog online.
Right.
So does an editorial every Tuesday. Just great people we're meeting out in the field at different comic shops. But overall, I spent most of my week catching up on comics.
Yeah. Well, given how much the two of us have purchased in the past month,
yeah,
we've got a lot of reading to do. A lot of reading.
Well, I don't know about you, but I actually read the comics when I got home.
Yeah, no, not yet.
Yeah.
I have a lot of work to do. A lot of catching up.
Which is also where some of my research came into, where I stumbled upon a fascinating thing. I was telling you about this earlier. The, what was it, 1930s. From October, mid-1930. It was a comic strip run in newspapers.
Right.
Mickey Mouse comic strip. And a lot of people have thought this was an urban legend. This is the comic strip 8-series run where Mickey tries to commit suicide.
Right.
Not contemplate suicide. Tries to commit suicide. Because Minnie is cheating on him.
Now, before we go any further, there's nothing really that we can do or have done to authenticate this. But, it seems very non-Disney. I know Disney's not the most popular group of people in the world, but... This is a little dark for Disney.
Well, part of what I like about it is the fact that, this is not typical for Disney. This is, I'm pulling up a strip where you've got, wrong one. I'm trying to pull up a strip
Is that
where,
Mickey committing arson?
yeah, yeah. I believe that is arson in one of them. Um,
Just firebombing someone's house?
no. This is actually the one where,
Oh, that's a tree. Never mind.
yeah, this is where Mickey catches Minnie kissing another guy. And he's like, "Good gosh, say it ain't so." The next strip that ran was him sitting on the front porch of his house, depressed, and then ends with him going to the wall and taking down a rifle or a shotgun. Um, we then go to, I don't know. Can you see the socks?
Barely.
Um, we've got the rifle tied up on top of two chairs, and a whole rather sophisticated pulley system to pull the trigger, so Mickey can blow his brains out. Then a cuckoo clock goes off and tells him he's cuckoo, so he throws the gun out the window. Um,
Well, ironically, the clock chimes at 3 after Mickey had just counted to 2.
yeah, and then you've got the next one is Mickey jumping off a bridge and landing on a barge. This isn't Mickey contemplating jumping off a bridge.
No,
This
he
is-
actually jumps.
Yeah. This is a fantastic run of comics from, the 1930s. You've got your good old-fashioned wholesome Mickey Mouse. I mean, I was reading in Superman Red Sun earlier where they actually say no disrespect to Mickey Mouse, but you don't get any more American than Superman.
Right.
Um, you know,
Well, Superman isn't anti-Semitic
right.
like Mickey Mouse is.
Right. But still, you gotta appreciate this comic run. And if it came out today, it would be absolutely everywhere because people would be going, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening."
Right.
This is 1930s, where they're more, stuck up, more closeted on day-to-day things than we are now. I can only imagine the level of appall and outrage that this strip drew.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, if you get a chance to check it out, just look up, Mickey Mouse Suicide comic strip, and you'll find it. It's an 8-series or an 8-comic strip run, printed from newspapers. So,
Does it say who actually ran the strips?
um,
Like which papers or
let me check on that. Not seeing which newspaper it was. No, not seeing.
because I mean you wouldn't see something like that run today.
No, not at all. But to see it, let alone then, is fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely want to bring this to you guys' attention. I'll also post a link to the same article, on our page.
Yeah.
Put it underneath what I'm going to create will be the zombie page and the ox page. So anything that we talk about, any links that we want to drop for you guys, we'll put information for it on those pages.
Right.
There I've actually already got on my page the spoiler-free review of Man of Steel, which we'll cover more in another episode.
Yep.
We're actually going to do 2 episodes today. We will discuss a little bit of Man of Steel in this one, spoiler-free, and then we will have our spoiler-filled brief episode. So after you've seen the movie, it will be safe to listen to that one.
And it will be labeled that it is spoiler heavy, so you're not
Yeah.
blindsided by it.
Yeah, because we don't want to ruin it for anybody. So, yeah. Let's see, what else? Out of the reviews I did this week, interesting.
Yeah.
One comic I actually read, I'm pulling up the score for it now, was Bounce. This was originally pitched to me as, "Oh, are you a fan of Spider-Man?" I was like, "Well, sure," just so I can find out what the end of the pitch is.
Right.
Um, and this comic was recommended to me. It's called Bounce. It's a Dark Horse comic, I believe. Was it Bounce? No, it's complete indie. Um, and no, Image. Image Comics is the one who put it out.
Okay.
Um, and part of what fascinates me about it is that page one, our main character is sitting there smoking a bong. Page two, our character is continuing to smoke said bong. Um, Good comic, good read overall.
Hence the mature rating right above the
Yes.
barcode.
I gave it a 3.88 overall. Part of what got me is there's no concept of a backstory at all. I understand that this guy has superpowers. I understand that he's fighting crime.
Right.
I have no idea why.
Right. I mean, this is something that you and I have discussed at great length.
Yeah.
Where, if you're going to start up a new run about a specific character, make us care about that character for some reason.
Right.
Give
like,
us some reason to buy the next issue.
it was compelling to turn the page,
Right.
but at the same time, I'm going, why is this happening? Why does he have this superpower? Why?
So you think they're going to pull a prequel thing and in later issues?
I hope so. I'm kind of very confused. Which
I
is
mean-
not uncommon for me, but still.
I don't know about you, but I'm a little sick of the whole prequel thing.
Yeah. I would rather it just, start out with, hey, or even mention something to a backstory. Like, I escaped this top secret facility.
Right.
Or this life is better than living in the facility. And you're like, ooh, the facility? And then the next issue, they can kind of allude a little more to it.
Backstory issues, not necessarily prequels, yeah.
Yeah, give me something. Give me a backstory. Let me care. So I didn't find that too much with it, but overall, illustrations were good. The inking was great. I mean, I am gonna read it again primarily because I want to find out if there is a backstory.
Right.
I'll probably give them till about the first 5 comics, and if I have no backstory by comic 5, I'm done.
Dumping the series.
Yeah. Let's see. Killjoys was another one I read. A new comic from Dark Horse. Very interesting. I love the illustration. I love the art style. The story was fairly good, and it was definitely a page turner. Kind of one where I do want to know more, but they do give me the feeling that I am going to find out more coming, and more to why this is all happening. So definitely one that I liked. Killjoys ended up with a 4.18. So not bad. Kind of just reaching into the great category, but still not bad. Really fantastic illustrations.
Yeah, I like it.
Very edgy, very, very just gritty. So that was one thing I did like about it. And Thumbprint. Thumbprint's another one I read. Let's see. Thumbprint got a 4.01 overall. Good story, good plot, good inking. Or actually, no, the illustration and the inking is where it really lost a lot of ground for me.
Yeah.
Good story, good plot. So I am gonna read it again, but I'm just not a fan of this illustration style.
Right.
It was definitely an interesting read, though. Not one where I can say, "Oh my God, this is fantastic. I'm hooked."
First thing I could say is it's very weird to feel this sort of rough cover paper.
Right.
Not accustomed to that, but I like it.
It's more of a reminds me of the art paper I used in high school.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
art class.
Exactly.
That high quality art paper.
I gotta kind of disagree with you on the illustrations.
Okay.
I sort of dig that grittiness, and I don't know.
I mean, overall, it's one that it was a 4.01. So I mean, it's still in the great category, but one that I wasn't a fan of the illustration style, but
Okay. Well, I mean,
I
that's extremely subjective. I mean,
yeah, it's also something that it is a very unique art style to it. So
yeah. I
we may
mean,
see some improvement on that coming up. It is an IDW comic, thumbprint. Check it out. It's worth the read.
visually, it reminds me a lot of storyboards
Yeah.
that you see. Not necessarily very detail oriented, but like a couple specific things are done in higher detail,
Oh yeah.
which, you know, as a film that I can appreciate.
Right. Now, staying in true with the Superman theme of the week, I was at Hole in the Wall, shop that we've reviewed before.
Yep.
One of a good shop that I like, and I came across this very, very interesting cover.
I was looking at that because you have a similar cover behind you.
Yes. Now, what the two covers that we're referring to is the one that's sitting behind me is Superman number 75. For those fans out there, Superman 75 is the death of Superman. It is where Superman is beaten to death
Right.
by Doomsday. And what we're looking at is Superman Man of Steel number 75.
Extremely similar cover, with the exception of instead of being Superman's cape, it's a pair of Superman boxers and a purple derby.
Yes. And it also says at the bottom, on the original Superman 75, it says the death of Superman in the bottom right corner. You've got your barcoding over on the bottom right corner. You have a slightly different style to the upper left, with DC, the numbering, and Superman himself. And the writer and illustrator's names are circled on the front cover. So we go to Man of Steel, number 75, where it is slightly different on the cover style. But you have this fascinating thing at the top. You've got these boxer shorts on a pole, and it says the death of, how's it exactly read?
You read it because I can't pronounce that.
The death of Mixipe, you know that guy. So needless to say, found this in cheap bin in the back of Hole in the Wall, and it caught my attention because I'm going, that looks identical to the one I have. So I grab it, bring it home, and sit down and read it. And this is the death of Mixlix Pixlix.
Yeah.
This is a character that is all-knowing, omnipotent, and really just a pain in everyone's ass. And somebody that, if he could die, seeing him die would be great. Part of what I liked about this comic was that it's from front cover to back cover, it is a complete standalone. It was obviously released to mark the number 75 of Man of Steel.
It almost looks like a parody of itself.
It is. Actually, the internal comic itself reads almost identical. In frame style, in, character interactions.
Okay, hold on. Bada bing, bada boomsday.
Yep. Mixlix Pixlix calls upon and creates Doomsday, but it's not Doomsday. It's Bada Bing Bada Boomsday.
Oh, God.
It's a straight parody comic, and I enjoyed it. I really did.
This is actually older, too.
Yeah. But then again, the original Death of Superman was,
Yeah.
90s.
Well, I mean, when you have the ad for Alien Resurrection in the middle of your book, cross-promoting WCW Nitro.
Don't forget the ad for the Sega Genesis in there.
No, where?
There
it is.
Yep.
Wow.
Which brought back some
it's
fond memories.
Sega Saturn.
Oh, Sega Saturn, my bad. Still brought back fond memories.
So if for no other reason than nostalgia, this is a cool book to have.
Oh, yeah. By no means is it a valuable comic. I think it was like $1 or something in $1.
$1.75.
Yeah, $1.75 in value to add to my collection. Yeah. The PlayStation, that was probably the PlayStation 1.
Yeah, a cross promotion between Nintendo 64 and PS1.
Yeah. It got a 4.17 out of 5. I loved every page.
Just sheer chuckle value.
Oh yeah, it was a hysterical read. It's one where I'm just sitting there going, "Okay, this is happening." They
I'm going to
went there.
commit to reading this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to enjoy every second of it.
Yeah, it's a great comic. So if you ever find it in some random store in like a dollar bin or a $2 bin, it's worth the $2.
Well, I mean, I doubt very highly it's going to grow in value, but it's something you could read and have a good laugh at.
Exactly, and it's also I enjoy the concept of having it on my shelf, as you can see behind me.
Directly next to the original cover.
Right. So I've got Superman, Man of Steel, and I've got Superman, both issue 75s sitting side by side, which is just a very stark comparison between the two.
I will say the fact that they are different artists doesn't detract from the near perfect duplication of the cover. Like minor detail things are different, but
The clouds, the actual brightness of the sun.
yeah.
So, no, it's a good read. I highly recommend it. Now I did have the fun today that I haven't gotten all the way through it. But I stopped by Victory today, and my home away from home had managed to pick up and get in a copy of Red Sun, the graphic novel, for me. Now I am still committed to finding these 3 issues on their
Individually, yeah.
but I can actually at least sit down and read it and enjoy it.
Right.
I will say that reading the prequel inside the cover, the moment I went to turn to the first page, gave me a chill. Just because the way they talk about the storyline, the way that there's so much importance put on it,
Right.
and that truly it was in the right hands, the right writer, just meant the world to it. And so a fantastic read. I mean, on the first page, you've got a phone call coming in late at night or early in the morning, and Lois is waking up, answering the phone, going, Lois Lane, Lois Luthor.
Okay.
So you're immediately hooked from page 1 because you're going, excuse me?
Yeah.
Lois who? Lois, did you fall down and bump your head?
Yeah.
So it's...
Did Lois have a stroke?
Did Luthor drug her? So it's definitely an interesting read. I am so far fascinated by it. Loving the story at the point we're at. It's absolutely fantastic, and the political factors that are put into it, like there is a conversation with Superman and Moscow's head of police,
Right.
in Stalin era, and Superman standing there being very much the Superman that we know and love in a lot of ways, the good old boy, where he's going, why don't you like me?
Right.
And this police chief is going, well, that's one of my issues. You have to be liked by everyone. It's like, I can't stand that. And he's pointing out that Superman is in direct contradiction to Marxist values.
Yeah.
Because Marx, preached that all men were created equal, and truly tried to idolize that in the communist lifestyle.
Right.
And for someone like Superman to come along and prove that, no, in fact, we're not all created equal, and prove it beyond the factor of a reasonable doubt.
Well, yes, but he's an alien.
Right.
I mean,
But I mean, we're talking about bringing aliens into Marxist ideals. So yeah, we're gonna have to give them a little leeway on that one. But so far, just the fact that conversation can take place is fascinating, and I really appreciate that the writer went to that point.
yeah.
you know, to go, look, this is contrary to everything we know about communism. And yes, you are here and you are communist and you were raised in Ukraine and what the hell? You prove that we're wrong. So I'm loving it so far and can't wait to finish it.
Good.
Let's see, what else have we got this week?
Got a con coming up.
We do. I'm actually rather excited about this.
Me too.
Schaff Promotions. It's listed as Schaff Promotions Comic Book Shows, Comic Book Show, Tyson's Corner, Virginia, Crown Plaza, 1960 Chainbridge Road, Tyson's Corner, Virginia. Sunday, June 23rd, 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Anything that advertises full selection of gold, silver, bronze, and modern age comics.
Well, we'll see how extensive their collection is.
Right.
But
That's a bit of a
it's a bold claim.
I was just thinking the same thing. It is a rather bold claim. So you can expect to see, both Ox and I there. For those of you that made it out to Superman, yes, we were there. In Tyson's.
None of you said hi to us. What the hell?
Don't worry. I know who the listeners were that didn't say hi to us, and well, I'll just resolve that issue in my own ways. It might have to do with
We don't bite unless you want us to.
you don't.
Not off the bat, no.
I do.
Well, that's your thing.
Yeah. With a fava, nice side of fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Well, I mean, the difference between us is I try very hard not to get arrested. You do everything up until that getting arrested point.
Yeah, I really do try to push that boundary.
And you do. Quite frequently.
Yeah. How many times on regular outings do you worry about the concept of
That depends.
on
If your fiance is with you or not.
and how much caffeine I've had that day?
No, not worried about that.
Oh, okay.
No. I know if she's with you, everything's okay.
True. Valid point. Let's see. Oh, yes, but back to the main subject.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there was the incident that occurred yesterday where I seemed to channel Solomon Grundy, my zombie brethren.
I still don't know how you managed to do that.
I managed to rip the soap holder in the shower off the wall, seamlessly and with very little effort, I felt.
And it's not like you were falling and was grabbing it to
Nope.
save yourself. You
No.
just grabbed it and pulled.
Yeah. And it went from being attached to the wall to being in my hand.
Now, what possessed you to try that? What was the thought process saying, "Ooh, perfectly good soap dish. I'm going to rip it out of the wall."
That's the thing. I went into it with I'm going to steady myself for a second on this, not even put weight on it, just hold it for a second, and then off the wall and in my hand. I will say that when I posted to Facebook and I was getting the responses of I didn't referencing the Thing from Fantastic Four, Ben Grimm,
Right.
being asked by a comic writer if I was bitten by a radioactive spider recently.
The usual questions.
Oh yeah. We're like, no, not that I know of. It's possible. We do have spiders in the apartment. Yeah, I will admit I do squeal like a little girl when it comes to spiders. I hate them.
Killed more spiders calmly than he has.
They're spiders. They're evil and they bite.
See, I cannot blame you for being arachnophobic. I'm not.
I mean, we
But-
also get, to clarify, these are not little spiders. These are like 1.5-inch spiders.
That's a little spider.
That big in body.
Okay. They get this big.
Yeah,
Size of a dinner plate, bro.
I'm not talking about like camel spiders.
Neither am I.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those guys are small, but they hiss at you.
Yeah. Wolf spiders are pretty nasty too, but
They're really not.
No, they're very mild-mannered, but they look big and nasty.
They're not. They're
They're
really
big
not.
like these guys?
I have never seen a wolf spider that big.
Oh. You should have gone to, like, Goshen Boy Scout camp.
No.
Yeah.
That would involve being associated with the Boy Scouts, which
Yeah.
I don't do.
Yeah, I was until they kicked me out. Go figure. For a number of reasons.
Which we won't go into because
No.
we'll be here for 4 hours.
Yeah. So yeah, I managed to channel my zombie brethren of Solomon Grundy and rip a shower fixture off the side of the wall, which was kind of awesome but disturbing at the same time. It was absolutely worth it to walk up to the front desk in the apartment complex.
You
And,
had it in your hand, didn't you?
I did.
And you put it on the desk.
Yep.
Hey, this just happened.
Yep. I need to get a maintenance request in. Okay, what happened? Thunk. Oh, holy shit. Yep. Yep. That happened.
It reminds me of the time I knocked the counter off the cabinetry in my apartment. The maintenance guy came in and says, I don't want to know what happened. I'm just going to fix it. I'm not going to write any commentary. We'll just forget it ever happened.
That does take some skill.
To be fair, it was really poorly made.
As most apartment complexes are.
Right. I mean, these were not luxury apartments in the sky. You know, it was a 3-floor walk up with the cheapest of the cheap.
True. And I will say that if you just heard the strange sounds, yes, I was smoking a hookah. It is tobacco oriented. It is actually from one of our sponsors, which we will be blessing you guys with a few commercials on next week's episode, I believe. Part of that is that we did actually get a sponsorship, and that is Brilliant Smoke. They are an e-cigarette company, and they actually have a e-hookah system, which is,
That's really damn good.
yeah, it's a gift that I got for myself for Father's Day. But yeah, it's also e-hookah, tobacco vapor oriented. So pick that up, and we'll be working with them here in the future, which I'm kind of excited about.
I am too.
Because we currently do use them on the show already.
Yeah, we
being-
don't actually smoke cigarettes inside because it makes your apartment smell bad.
That and the missus would hurt me.
Yeah, she punch you.
Yeah. Right in the face, right here.
Right in the ear.
Yeah.
Oh God, worst place ever to get hit.
She's actually not saying in the face, not in the eye. No, she apparently would punch me in the ear.
It
Ears, that would hurt.
even without the earrings, it just hurts really bad because you get the pressure in your eardrum and it starts
Yeah.
ringing.
For those of you listening who have never seen a picture of me, I have 10 piercings in my ears.
The man has bedazzled himself.
How are solid steel gauges bedazzled?
I don't know. I just wanted to say it.
You can see through his ears more than bedazzled.
This is true.
Yeah.
You can fit a regular sized cigarette through his largest holes.
Yeah.
As he's trying to push his e-cig through.
Yeah, it doesn't quite fit.
Well, it would if you were wearing the silicone ones.
True. But yes, yeah. The woman wants to punch me in the ear, which is fascinating. I love her. This is also the same girl that I can go to the comic shop and she spends just as much on comics as I do. Sometimes more.
Yeah, you told me that you spent more on mine than you did on yours.
Yeah.
Well,
Which is not a problem.
the things you do
I
when
know.
you're in love.
I know. I sacrifice myself going to the comic store with her and spending money on comics for both of us.
We're dudes. We do stupid shit when we're in love. Yeah. Plain and simple.
I really don't think going to the comic shop and buying comics for her is going to qualify, but sure.
No, I'm just speaking very generally.
Oh, okay. So let's see. One thing that I am interested in, I have committed myself. By next week, I'm going to have massively researched. Is when it comes to DC Comics, as you know, I'm very well versed
Yes.
on history, knowledge, and all things DC, pretty much.
One might call you an aficionado.
Yes. However, there is the one category for DC I lack massively on.
Which is
The Lantern Corps.
that was a nice little theme song addition.
Yeah.
Lantern car.
So, when it comes to Lantern Corps, I gotta admit, I don't know much. I'm familiar with Green Lantern. I know the basics of Green Lantern, and I know the basics of how the Green Lantern Corps work.
and at the same time, you're familiar with Sinestro and that
And-
whole wing of things.
Right, and the basics and the fundamentals of the Sinestro Corps.
Right.
But as for your red, your orange, your blue, was it pink, or sapphire rings. All of those. I'm like, I just really need to learn more. I need to learn a lot about the entire Lantern Corps war. Like for example, where Luthor was given an orange ring. The concept of giving Lex Luthor any kind of power ring at all just seems like a bad idea.
I'm actually looking at the one you gave me earlier.
Yeah. When I stopped by Victory, they gave me a free Lantern Corps ring. It's a blue lantern ring,
Bit big, bit bulky, bit ostentatious for a pinky ring.
which I gave it to
And-
Ox because it won't fit on any of my fingers.
And it's also plastic.
Well, if it was able to fit on my finger, I would still wear it.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah. But then again, I also would love a yellow ring. Yeah, me with the yellow power ring.
Yeah, well, yeah.
How much would that just absolutely disturb you?
It wouldn't. In all honesty, it would make way too much sense. The one time in our lives where logic would actually prevail.
Me with a yellow ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just absolutely tormenting the masses.
Much like we're doing now.
True. Actually, speaking of superpowers,
Yes.
one thing we have yet to bring up on the show.
We haven't?
No. If you could have any
Oh,
superpower,
Jesus. I wish I had known this question was coming. I would have thought about it more beforehand.
if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I don't know.
I
mean, the obvious answer is to go Superman. But it's disappointing that he has every superpower.
right.
Is almost completely indestructible.
He's overpowered.
Yeah.
He really is, and that is one thing that as much as Stan Lee makes fun of him, I will give it to Stan Lee for that. Yes, Superman is overpowered.
Yeah.
know. Then again, at the same time, I do enjoy the fact that in an argument of, oh, Batman, your worst enemy is a clown, Batman can look at Superman and go, your worst enemy is a rock.
This is true. And let's face it, this guy's no normal clown either, as
No.
we've discussed before.
Yes.
I've actually been thinking about this question for like months now.
Okay. What, ever since New York?
Even before then, when I was watching Dark Knight Rises in the theater.
Okay.
Don't know why I thought about it then,
I was going to say.
but I it just popped into my head. And I think the one that would really be effective, like two that I would really like, would be telepathy, telekinesis type thing,
Okay.
or shape-shifting.
Okay. Kind of like Martian Manhunter style shapeshifting?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't even get that specific with it because there's way too many options out there.
No, see, and I will say that one of the benefits that comes with telekinesis is flight. Because,
Yes.
if you can lift objects, you can obviously lift yourself.
Theoretically.
Yeah. So I guess that goes to me. Of what superpower I would choose. And, well, yeah, I gotta admit, I would love a lantern ring. I would have a blast.
You would abuse it.
I would, but that's the benefit of a yellow lantern ring.
Right.
Is, you're
Abuse is expected.
Yeah, abuse and terrifying of the masses is really the main goal there. Um, I would go with like Deadpool style regeneration. I wouldn't go with invulnerable
Right.
because just invulnerability to me is pointless. It just seems overpowered, and I just don't like the concept. I would go with regenerative abilities, like severe,
Yeah.
because well, let's face it. As those of you who have listened, you've probably figured out I lean much more towards the evil supervillain side of the spectrum than the hero.
You also do a lot of stupid shit that gets you hurt.
Yeah. Fair point. Fair point. Um,
I try to stop them.
um,
Unfortunately, you can't be there 24 hours a day.
I gotta go with that level of regenerative ability because if I'm gonna get into a face off with Batman or Superman after like robbing a bank or trying to throw a bus of nuns off a cliff,
What did the nuns do to you
um,
recently?
nothing. They
All right.
I just saw a bus load of nuns almost collide with a bus or a truck of TNT on a Justice League episode, so that's why it popped in my mind. And I like the concept. If they're gonna stop me from doing, said act of throwing a busload of nuns off a cliff, I want to be able to withstand that beating as long as possible
Right.
and come back from it with really no injuries.
Well, that's sort of why I went with the shape-shifting telekinesis telepathy thing. Is that as a shapeshifter, you could theoretically shift into something that is either indestructible or very hard to injure. But also, like the telekinesis thing and the telepathy, it's like I really love psychology.
Yeah.
Like I will sit at home and read psychology textbooks for fun.
Well, you and I both.
Yeah, I mean, abnormal psychology is a class that I would actually just go to college for that. Just for that one semester of abnormal psych.
I got banned from a college when I was in high school because I took abnormal psych.
But you weren't paying for the class.
Right, and I admit that was something I shouldn't have done, but I still, got banned for 5 years from a college campus because as a high schooler, I snuck onto campus and took these courses.
Right.
And in all fairness, it took them 3/4 of the semester to figure it out.
Right. So I guess, we would both go the sort of scarecrow route of, making people see their worst fears, but not having to use a chemically based pathogen to do it.
Right. Absolutely.
Or wearing a burlap sack on my face.
What's wrong with that?
Just not something on my to-do list.
Oh.
Not a priority of mine.
Oh, well, I've already got that checked off my list.
Well, I know that.
Yeah. So, you know what? I say let's get it out of the way. The spoiler-free review for Superman.
Okay.
Now, we are going to discuss Superman, and we are going to discuss in a spoiler-free manner. So don't worry, you're safe if you haven't seen it. Overall, I ended up giving it a 4.6 out of 5. 4.6 arc reactors out of 5.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to arc reactors now?
Well, movies get arc reactors, comics get lantern rings, stores get bat signals.
Okay.
Everything gets its own designation.
All right. We just hadn't discussed the arc reactor thing.
I posted on Twitter that night.
Yeah. I need to pay more attention to Twitter then.
You really should, like when I tag you and stuff.
Yeah, I really should. Anyway, back to the point. You gave it a 4.6.
Yeah.
I gave it a 4.2.
Yep.
You nearly hit me for giving it a 4.2.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, walking in, I walked in. Yes, I was having fun. I was in, my Superboy outfit. I was excited. But I went in with the intention that this was going to suck. And that Warner Brothers had just done it to us again.
As did I. I had very low expectations. I'm not the biggest Russell Crowe fan.
Neither am I.
And in all honesty, he surprised me.
He really did.
He played the role so well.
Best Jor-El to date.
Yeah, I mean, as we discussed before, I'm not the biggest Brando fan.
Right. You know, I will say that Zod was fantastic.
Yeah, really, really well cast.
Extremely well cast. You gotta love that twinge of crazy in the eye.
Yeah, something ain't right with that dude.
No, but I like him.
I like it. I like it a
Um,
lot.
One of the things I appreciated was that they didn't try to pull from any one storyline.
Right.
And generally when we've seen it before in comic movies, when you pull from one dedicated story arc or storyline, it causes issues. Because in some ways it is very hard to adhere to these situations and these stories that can occur.
We saw it in the '89 Batman flick.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you commit to Jack Napier killing the Waynes and becoming the Joker,
Yeah.
and then I can sort of understand killing him off after the first flick, but
Yeah.
that story arc was still very much present in Batman Returns
Yep.
and so on.
And you know, they didn't stick to one story arc.
Right.
They pulled from all Superman story arcs, which is something I appreciated. I went, all right, you know what? You're off the bat going, we're not going to follow one.
It's a risky move. It's
is.
really risky.
But it paid off. I mean,
I
they
agree.
put everything on the house,
Yeah.
and they beat the house.
Yeah.
You know, it was a risky move, but it played out fantastically.
I would almost compare this one to the original in terms of enjoyment.
Okay.
I mean, I enjoyed the original one so much when I was a kid that I didn't realize that Margot Kidder was batshit crazy. And I wanted to meet her. But, yeah, something about it. It just resonated really deep. Took me back, 15 years.
Yeah, it took me back to reading the Superman comics as a kid.
Or
Yeah.
even the strips in the newspaper.
Yeah. Yeah, my Superboy comics from the 90s,
Yeah.
the Steel comics. It was just so well done. And I mean, the combat sequences were great. Without getting into too much detail, it's just, I'm going to say, unless you have anything else, I'm going to leave it here and just go with you need to see this movie.
I am going to defend my rating.
Okay.
It wasn't a perfect flick.
No.
It wasn't near a perfect flick for me. And also, two of my issues with the experience that night were probably the theater's fault more than the editor's fault.
Yeah, you can't hold that against the movie.
But I don't know. I haven't heard it in another context yet.
Okay.
In case you haven't noticed, I am a sound man. That's what I do. I record, I mix live. I am obsessed with audio. I think one of my next tattoos is actually going to be a pair of headphones or a microphone or something like that. There's something to be said for having an appropriate amount of low end in an explosion sequence.
Yeah.
And I thought it was lacking. We were seated perfectly
Thank you.
where the low end should have been hitting us in the chest when it was supposed to.
Yep.
And it just wasn't.
Yeah, and by seated perfectly, we were at AMC theaters with the stadium style seating, and we were third row from the back, dead center. I was actually sitting right in line with the projector,
Yeah.
and you were on my right, and the missus was on my left.
Yeah.
So I mean, dead center, perfect.
Seating.
Thank you for that, by the way.
And I don't know. It's my anal retentive sound guy thing coming out where I thought the audio was lacking. So
Right. So at the same time, I give it a 4.6. I'm going with the theory that was probably the theater.
well, to test that, I am going to go to another theater and either see it in IMAX or IMAX 3D or whatever.
Right.
And see if it's better.
Which, by all means. And that's something that you went with a 4.2, I went with a 4.6. We're not going to agree on every rating.
Nor should we.
Yeah. I mean, when we go review shops, that is, when we're leaving and I've got my tablet out and I'm punching in the numbers,
Yeah.
It's I'm asking your opinion on each category.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you my opinion. And there are times where I may say 4.5, you may say 4, and we put in a 4.25.
Yeah. I mean, compromise is part of this.
Right. And so we do compromise on a lot of the ratings. And something like a movie like this with a major release that did blow out the box office this weekend.
Yeah, how much did it make?
I think it grossed 116 million.
Very not bad.
Or no, I think it was even higher than that. Hold on, I will look that up. Entertain the masses while I look that up.
Okay. Well, if we want to talk more about Man of Steel, as specifically the casting, Lois Lane, Amy Adams. I don't know what it is about her, but I've got a huge crush on her, and
She's a cute redhead.
I'm not really one for redheads, but for some reason it works. She's cute. She doesn't seem batshit, at least from what I can tell. It just seems really like she seems like the perfect foil for that Batman or Superman, excuse me. The character just works.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, half of that's probably writing, but casting is extremely important. I was really worried that Russell Crowe was going to fuck up Jor-El really badly.
Whoa.
What? What?
Second search result. When I type in Superman Man of Steel gross,
Yes.
the second result is how much will Man of Steel and the Justice League movie gross? So give me a moment.
IMDb, please. I haven't heard anything about this yet.
We might be bringing it to you live.
um,
Maybe.
how do we not know about this? We are painfully out of the loop on this one. 2015 release date, tentatively.
They have a writer.
Who?
Will Beal.
What else has he done?
I don't know.
Well,
I'm working on it.
click faster.
I'm clicking as fast as I can.
Oh, writer Castle.
Oh, Castle, Gangster Squad, Logan's Run.
So, yeah.
Castle TV series.
So, very good writer.
Yeah. This might be his breakout film.
Okay, just because I don't like Nathan Fillion doesn't mean I can't enjoy Castle.
I think you might have just lost some viewers there.
Huh?
You might have.
Please disregard what Ox just said. Don't let it affect our ratings.
Oh, god damn it. I don't have to like everybody.
Yeah, true.
Aquaman fucking sucks, and we agree on that.
Yeah.
I don't have to like Nathan Fillion.
Well, let's just face it. Aquaman and Seaman get along great.
Okay.
I went there.
You did. I'm not sure why, but you did.
Because it's him. That's why.
Because it's him.
Domestic gross for Superman Man of Steel.
Yes.
This weekend, 134 million.
That's a good check.
It also apparently beat out opening weekend of Toy Story 3 from a few years ago.
Good.
But I mean, that was a major release.
Disney.
Yeah. So, well done. But all right. So yeah, definitely need to check out Man of Steel. It is a highly recommended movie. And you all must see it now.
It definitely doesn't suck.
No.
Which is important,
And Aquaman isn't in it.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yet.
True.
2015, he'll be there.
Maybe. Justice League does not necessarily denote
He'll be
Aquaman.
there. You know he will.
Well, that's the thing. Do we go with Justice League TV series? Because if we go with Justice League TV series, Aquaman was not one of the founding 7.
No, however,
I mean, if we go with like the Justice League TV series, founding 7, we're looking at Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, and that's John Stewart Green Lantern,
right.
Martian Manhunter,
Yep.
Wonder Woman, and Shira Hall. Hawkgirl.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I mean,
Spider-Man was a member of the Avengers. We didn't see him in the Avengers movie.
thankfully.
But I mean, he may come in for Avengers too.
Yeah, probably.
But then again,
since they are revamping that franchise completely.
right, and I will actually say, because I watched it last night, I went and saw it on, right when it came out, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Right.
It really just put all the original ones, all the ones that were done with Tobey Maguire, to shame. Or Tobey Maguire. And that doesn't...
Those films put themselves to shame.
They did.
I mean, I feel bad for Sam Raimi
Yeah.
because, I mean, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead,
Yep.
Spider-Man.
And...
So many good movies, and then you go and do Spider-Man.
Right. And you don't even do it well.
I mean, what in the hell was Willem Dafoe thinking?
I don't know. He needed to eat.
Really?
don't
Really?
know.
We're going to go that route?
I don't know. I was going for like a just sheer desperation answer.
Boondock Saints is still paying him, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, this
Great
is also a guy
movie.
that he did a indie film out of New Zealand that was fantastic.
Yeah.
The Hunter. Really, really interesting movie. But no, the Amazing Spider-Man movie, I loved it because it did adhere to the Spider-Man story very well. I love how it actually brought in the relationship that Spider-Man had with the crane operators in New York City,
Right.
because that was something that did happen in the series.
Right.
Spider-Man hung out on the cranes. They had the spider cannon, which was where he would launch himself down the chute of the crane itself and out into the city.
Right.
So a lot of great concepts that they had in there that they really did implement very well. Also, I liked how they had Gwen Stacy in there, because Gwen Stacy was the real love interest of Peter Parker.
As much as I am fond of Kirsten Dunst, no.
Yeah. It's also a level of, you know what? Believe it or not, Mary Jane has not always been the object of his eye, ladies and gentlemen.
Read your shit.
Yeah. Which actually brings me into my find at Nordstrom yesterday.
Yeah, I can't believe you found this at Nordstrom's.
Yes, Nordstrom's. So I was in Nordstrom.
You gotta say it with sort of a pretentious tone in your voice, right?
I don't, because I work there.
Well, think about the clientele.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the same people who are shopping at Saks, Macy's, Armani.
Right. And I mean, this is a place that, oh, I would like to buy this flap of cloth to cover my groin area that you'll call a bathing suit.
Right.
And it's going to cost me $250.
There is absolutely no reason a bikini should be more than $150. And that's if you're going very specific manufacturer.
Right. I mean, this is a place where ties can easily run you a $300 tie. I've had some great
It's
ties that
something-
I've found over the years for $15.
It's something you're going to wear around your neck and most likely spill coffee on.
Yeah. So either way, I'm in Nordstrom the other day, passing through, and I'm heading for the exit, and I noticed this fixture right by the door. It has a whole bunch of comic T-shirts on it for kids, and I start looking at it, because it's not like a T-shirt where you have just the character on the cover or on the
No,
front.
it's actually quite an elaborate
These
image.
were T-shirts for kids that are comic covers.
Yeah.
Like actual, direct copy of the cover. And they're pretty memorable covers. They had Captain America, they had Iron Man, X-Men, a lot of Marvel stuff. There wasn't any DC stuff. But I come across this one green shirt, and it is the cover of Amazing Spider-Man number 122.
Yep.
And I know I've talked about number 121. I believe I've talked about 122. This is the comic that directly comes after the death of Gwen Stacy.
Right.
And this is where, Spider-Man goes after Green Goblin for revenge. He's going to kill Green Goblin for killing Gwen. So he's pissed. Great comic cover, one of the most influential covers of that time period. And you have this major event on a t-shirt for a kid in Nordstrom. And you have it for $24, which kind of surprised me on the price, because I was expecting to see a lot more on that price tag.
To be fair, though, it is a kid's T-shirt.
Right.
It should be under $20.
Right. But at the same time, it is still Nordstrom, and I was expecting to see a lot higher price point.
Maybe another 0 on the end of it.
Maybe. Or double the price, actually.
Yeah.
And, I grabbed it for my nephew, who's 6 and just starting to read. And I've been actually meaning to pick him up his first comics.
Yeah.
Which I actually did today. That was part of my visit to Victory. Was going in and getting him a Superman comic, a very, very younger...
Family-friendly version.
A family-friendly, kid-friendly, younger reading style Superman, as well as a Green Lantern comic in the same boat.
Yeah.
Because I figure, you know what? He's 6, he's reading, and if anybody's going to be getting him his first comic, it should probably be the uncle that runs the comic podcast.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Let's face it, Mom probably wouldn't know where to find a comic store in the first place.
Let alone where to start in terms of material.
Right, and knowing her, she would probably go in and get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Especially seeing some of the comics that are available and going, oh my God, is this for kids? No, that one is not for kids. Like, I did see a comic earlier today that I need to research. Sex.
Okay.
Sex number 1 and Sex number 2.
I actually saw those in Annapolis when we went.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. You have the title.
It's an interesting, attention-grabbing title. Why
Yeah.
not?
And it definitely did catch my attention. If that was your goal, you achieved it. Good job, comic.
Well, here's another question for you then. Do you think your nephew, as he grows in the comic world, will become a brony?
It's possible. I was actually talking to Victory about this today. Out of all the number 1s that came out for the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic series,
Right.
the most valuable is the one that's sitting behind me.
Yep.
And that is the Hot Topic variant, the
Doctor
Doctor Who My Little Pony. And that is an act of pure brilliance. If Hot Topic had any part in designing that cover, which I wouldn't doubt,
Given how much Doctor Who stuff they're stocking now, I wouldn't be surprised.
they really, truly monopolized and capitalized on knowing their customer base. They
Yep.
took My Little Pony and they took Doctor Who, they slammed it together, and they put it front and center. Brilliantly done. And that's why that comic is still the most, valued.
Yeah.
It's in such high demand, and I don't see that demand going anywhere.
I mean, Doctor Who at this point is so popular.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the Doctor Who comics.
I mean, I've seen people with TARDIS tattoos.
Yeah.
A friend of mine built a TARDIS shelf, like a cabinet, a closing cabinet that is a TARDIS.
Yeah. I mean, we see it everywhere.
Yeah.
We see it on... I've been sitting in traffic on 495 and 95 in the D.C. metropolitan area, where traffic is a way of life.
So in other words, you were going absolutely nowhere.
Right. And one thing about traffic in this area is that it is a location, the major highways, it's a location that you can have somebody like myself. Long hair pulled into a ponytail, mohawk, whichever way I have it that day, earrings, tattoos, sitting in my car, and the guy next to me could be a congressman. Could be a senator. Not
Could be military. We
right.
don't know.
And for the most part, you get this giant collection of people that you would never find in any room together anywhere.
No.
But
Having this collective misery
right.
sitting in traffic.
At that moment, we can all agree on one thing: we hate traffic, and that we want the people in front of us to go faster. But that's where I've seen some interesting things, is because I see these guys that are your blue tie, white shirt, blue collar, conservative type, whether they are or they just work in a conservative environment, and they're rocking like a TARDIS bumper sticker.
My other car is a TARDIS.
Right. And you're like, this grabs everyone, all reaches of life.
I mean, I've even seen bus advertising for the new season on BBC America.
Right. And it's something that they're getting into the comic stores with it too. They're getting us everywhere because, well, let's face it, a lot of comic fans are Whovians as well. And I think that was just kind of inherent. It happened.
Generally speaking, the average comic fan is into sci-fi.
Yeah.
So
naturally, they've been doing the Doctor Who comics, and they work. They sell really well. Same with the My Little Ponies, though. And if he, back to my nephew, if he were to become a brony and enjoy the My Little Pony comics, I can't fault him for it. The illustrations are fantastic.
Right.
The story is... How is the story? Mrs. How is the My Little Pony story, as I'm trying to ask the missus?
Not bad. I mean, kind of not so much going along with anything I've seen on the show, but I haven't watched the show all the way through. So, but there's funny little, kind of references to other things that are very geek related, which will make an older person, like an adult who wants to read them, laugh. Kids probably goes right over the head, which a lot of times,
most comics do.
yeah,
Right.
comics can.
We see that in almost every comic. There's going to be the things that we may catch. Your average fan of Superman or your average teenager could read Red Sun and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Would they actually have the understanding of a Marxist ideal or in what communist society means? No.
Nor
Not-
would they have any clue as to how terrified this country was in the 50s
Right.
up until, the early 90s.
Yeah. And I mean, it's... We even caught the end of it in the 80s growing up. It was... We were young in the 80s, but we still caught the tail end of the Cold War.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's... Even when the wall came down, it still was a while before those tensions really eased.
Oh, yeah.
And it was still a very real fear.
Yeah. Some people who like to rattle their sabers would still call it a viable threat.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't.
Yeah.
But there's some people who that's their go-to
Exactly.
to instill fear in the masses.
Oh yeah, and I mean that was one thing that I was finding enjoyable about the Red Sun was that you have those very real fears from the Cold War era being illustrated on print, and in these comics.
With a character whose original motto was truth, justice, and the American way.
Right. And now you have people in Smallville. They actually show Smallville. Going to Kent Hardware.
Right.
And they're buying lead to line their houses with out of fear that Superman is spying on them for Russia. It's...
Well, let's face it. If you knew someone had X-ray vision except through lead, wouldn't you do something similar?
I would walk around naked a lot more.
Okay, so completely not similar at all. Completely polar opposite reaction.
Yeah.
We're talking about one guy who can see through your skivvies, and you just want to show everybody.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Let's face it, fans.
In the run.
I am. I am asking an exhibitionist, would he walk around in his skivvies? And
Yeah,
I set myself up for that one.
absolutely. I mean, this is also me. Give me a yellow lantern ring, and I will be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Flying monkeys.
Abby something.
What?
Abby normal?
I think that was the name.
Yep.
Okay,
Flying-
we're going back
Um.
to the 80s cult movies now.
All right. So, everything aside, you know,
Frau Blucher.
we saw it earlier. The concept of a Justice League movie. That just brings me to, are my dreams of seeing a Flash movie going to come true?
Probably, but as we've seen, it's probably going to suck.
Right. I mean, and actually, I will say, I would love to see, like Schumacher do a Flash movie. Because I think, light spectrum wise, Schumacher leans much more towards the lighter side of movies, where Nolan goes darker.
I really want to see the Wysocki brothers write it.
Ooh. Well, actually, it's the Wysocki brother and sister now.
Oh, okay. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
One of them is now Lana.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to see them write their screenplay.
Ooh. For a Flash movie.
Actually, for any of these upcoming comic-based movies.
Except, and see, I do want to see Nolan do
Yes.
a Jon Stewart Green Lantern movie.
I want to see Nolan do anything, really.
Yeah.
I'm just a Nolan fan.
At this point, he brought us the Dark Knight trilogy, which were fantastic.
Yep.
He's, had his massive input on Superman, Man of Steel.
Interesting crossover between The Dark Knight and the new Superman is the scoring
Yes.
was once again Hans Zimmer.
Yep.
He did Inception with Chris Nolan. He did... Essentially, if Chris Nolan directed it, Hans Zimmer did the score.
Right. But I mean, there are worse director team-ups that can happen. I mean, let's just look at Burton and Depp.
Okay, that's not fair.
There are some things that Depp has done that Depp shouldn't have done. There are some things that Burton has done that Burton shouldn't have ever put his hands in that fucking cookie jar.
Such as...
Let's go with Willy Wonka.
See, I liked it.
Yeah, you liked it, but at the same time, have you read the transcript of the interview with Gene Wilder?
No, I read the book.
Yeah. No, Gene Wilder actually went off on Burton for that.
I'm sure he did. I mean, when Gene Wilder made it, it was a much more kid-friendly film.
It was. But I mean, it's also just that difference of opinion. But there are worse team-ups we could see. Okay,
But
Spielberg and Lucas.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
If the two of them never became friends, the world would be better.
I really don't want to spend another hour talking about Lucas, because I would.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we're not going to do that today.
Okay.
But good team-ups. Burton and Elfman.
Yes. Fantastic.
Danny Elfman of Oingo Boingo fame. Really weird name for a band.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's an awesome band name because nobody else would think of it. The work they've done together, starting back with Pee Wee Herman,
Yeah.
was
And I mean,
fantastic.
And a lot of Elfman stuff that, because of his work with Burton, has brought his music to the forefront and let him jump in on films where we have fantastic songs
The man is a genius.
Donnie Darko, Mad World.
That was not
Elfman?
Elfman.
No, that was
That was-
Gary Jules.
No,
Sorry.
that was Michael Andrews.
But Gary Jules did the cover.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. But
excuse
beautiful
me,
song. Beautiful song.
Wanted.
Yeah.
The theme song to Wanted. Granted, don't get me wrong. I know all of you comic fans out there are screaming that Wanted was a horrible movie. Okay, if you've never read the comic, which I'll admit, I saw the movie before I read the comic. I
Right.
liked it because
You had no
read-
idea what you were watching.
Exactly. I'm like, this is kind of a cool concept, cool movie. And then I read the book. Then I read the graphic novels and went, oh, well, you fucked that up.
Yeah.
But I can still go back and watch it now.
Right.
I take it for what it is. And so, I still love the theme song. It's a fantastic song. So, no, Elfman's been a great benefit to the industry, but at the same time, yeah. I think Hans Zimmer is going to be that go-to guy for any superhero movie going forward.
It's either going to be Hans Zimmer or Howard Shore
Yeah.
because of what Shore did for Lord of the Rings. I mean,
So true.
you want one of the best film scores of the early 21st century.
Oh, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking I still would love to see a Jon Stewart Green Lantern movie.
That's what I.
Because one of the things I just love is that, and I was mentioning this the other night, with Jon Stewart, and I say this as someone who has a father who's a Marine, a grandfather who's a Marine, and has a lot of friends that are Marines. Jon Stewart is the epitome of not taking someone and teaching them the way of the Lantern Corps. This was taking a Marine and equipping them with a lantern ring.
Right.
And there is a difference.
Massive difference.
Because most people that go through the Lantern Corps and the Green Lantern Corps, they come out being a corpsman, a Lantern corpsman.
Yeah.
And this was, you see it so much in Jon Stewart that the ring is just that new fancy tool that helps him do what he knows how to do well.
It's like getting the M1 Abrams when it first came out.
Right. I mean, it's the shiny new gun.
Right.
And teaching him how to use it, clean it, and keep it perfectly running. That's what it is. And that's one of the things I love about him is it's just a Marine who happens to have a lantern ring.
Right.
Also a guy that, hey, my ring's out of power. It's not, oh, my ring's out of power. I'm going to hide in this hole until you guys save me.
No, my ring's out of power. I'm going to go grab something from my arsenal and still kick your ass
No.
in my military uniform.
No. My ring's out of power. I don't have an arsenal. So I'm going to take your gun from you, and then I'm going to kill you and all your friends with it.
Because nothing says fuck you like killing a guy with his own gun.
Exactly.
That actually brings up another point I wanted to cover today. The sort of overly moral ideal that superheroes shouldn't kill.
That brings up the interesting concept of the Superman vs. the Elite movie. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay. It actually is a great movie. It's on Netflix Instant. And the animation is a little interesting, I will say. But it is something that it does actually base on that entire concept. And it really forces Superman to question that morality.
Right.
And the guys that are in it, the heroes / anti-heroes / villains, whatever they are,
Right.
force Superman into such a hole and such a, back him into such a corner that he breaks.
And that's sort of my big question is that, if a hero is driven to the point where he actually has to kill the enemy or the enemy will not stop, does that change the morality of the character enough to within that world that they exist in? Like if Batman had killed, say, say he had intentionally killed the Joker, his greatest foil.
Right.
I mean, yes, we wouldn't have had years and years and years of awesome stories, but
Are we
would that
going
have,
with like
would that have changed your perspective of him as a hero and a character?
no? Because here's the thing: is that while it's perceived as Batman shouldn't kill, Superman shouldn't kill, that it's beyond them. Well, you know what? We admire these heroes in comics. We admire them in all of their transactions throughout their daily lives and how they're brought to us through whatever media.
Right.
The true heroes that we see on a daily basis are our cops, our firemen, our military officers and military personnel deployed all over the world.
Yeah.
You know, these are real superheroes living and breathing. And at the end of the day, if bad guy has a gun to a kid's head and you're not going to talk him down and he's pulling the trigger, that cop, that military officer, and that military individual, they're going to pull the trigger.
Whereas in these fictionalized worlds,
Right. There's always some other way. And so I look at it as, you know what? Yes, our daily heroes deal with this factor,
yeah.
and they are affected by it on a moral standpoint. You know,
Right. They have to deal with the repercussions of their actions.
right. And you know, it's investigated. Was it a clean shoot? Was it what you had to do? Did you take this life with genuine cause for civilian safety?
Not to mention the psychological repercussions.
Right, exactly. And then they have to deal with the psychological implications of taking a life. These are things that these guys deal with. And these are the real heroes we see every day.
Right.
So to say that, you know, should Batman kill Joker by throwing him off a building? No, probably not. If Joker's standing there and he's got his finger on the button and he's going to blow up a school bus full of kids, and there's no way to stop him aside from putting a batarang between his eyes, then yeah. Yeah, that's the action that can be taken. And at that point, you can't fault them for it. I don't think it does change their morality, as long as they have to deal with those psychological aspects.
And I think that's sort of my biggest complaint with most of these quote unquote heroes is that there is this artificial morality imposed upon the character for whatever reason. I can understand, you know, with Bruce Wayne watching his parents die in front of him.
Right.
He would never want to inflict that on anyone.
Right.
At the same time, though, that to me seems less human, germane, realistic, whatever you want to call it. And I understand, you know, we're dealing in a world of fantasy and
Absolutely.
and absolutes. So
It's also a level of, you know, Joker is defeated, or, you know, Lex Luthor is defeated.
right.
Does that mean you kill him? No. You know, that's actually crossing into murder. Because, and I say Superman, Batman, whoever they are, if the opponent is defeated and then our hero kills them, then it becomes murder and that morality is in question.
Right.
If it's a matter of taking the life or letting them kill, then it's a difference.
Right. And as we've seen with these villains, most of them are classified as villains because they are willing to take a life.
Yes. You know, we've seen it in some of the spin-offs. You know, where Superman killed Lex Luthor with his heat vision.
Right.
And you know, while that caused this massive chain of events that unfolded in a very odd way, I don't blame or criticize Superman for his actions in that moment.
Right.
Because Lex had his finger on the trigger. He was going to detonate nuclear weapons all over the world.
Right.
He had already put a shotgun to Flash's face point blank and killed him.
Right.
So this is a man who has lost his ever-loving mind and is going to destroy the world. And there was only one action that Superman was left with, and that was lethal force.
I mean, I guess the point I'm driving at is, yes, it's fantasy, and it is somewhat based in reality. Like, Metropolis theoretically does exist.
Metropolis
Gotham,
is Chicago.
right? Gotham does exist.
Right.
Maybe it's just me, and if anyone wants to comment on this, please do, because I'd love to get some input on this.
Right, absolutely.
Is this artificially self-imposed morality what we want to see out of our characters nowadays? I can understand in the 30s and 40s when there was a much more stringent moral standard. And I guess I'm wondering if, as we progress as a nation, shouldn't our superheroes be progressing in a similar fashion?
But I think it then also delves into the concept of capital punishment. We're still a nation divided on that massively.
Fiercely divided, and
Right.
each side is almost violently supportive of their stance.
Exactly. And so, well, no, I'm not trying to make this a capital issue debate. I'm saying, yes, while if Batman does kill Joker, well, it kind of like fucks with the story because then Joker can escape and kill more people and Batman stop him.
You lose a central character in awesome storylines,
But at the same time, though, do we want to see a cleaner sense of justice, a more uniform, more streamlined, almost that sense of you have done this, you are now judge, jury, and executioner.
but then there's this sort of sitcom mentality where everything's wrapped up in a nice little bow after 22 minutes.
True. Or an hour and a half. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I could be the only one in the world with issues with this, but
No, it's valid points. And actually, I will say that tonight, once we are done recording and we start packing up, we'll put on Superman versus the Elite.
yeah.
Because it's something that I do want Ox to see. And if you haven't seen it out there, definitely watch it. It's worth watching. Because it does massively deal with this very issue. From a unique standpoint. So, while is it one of the best Superman animated movies out there? No. Is it a great one to see? Yeah. Yeah. So, let's see.
I don't know. I mean, I'm even torn on this issue.
Oh, and I am as well. As much, there are moments where, yes, I would love to see our heroes cross that line.
I can remember watching the original Batman, the 1989 Batman, for the first time. And I was like 5, 6 years old.
Yeah.
And I was rooting for the Michael Keaton Batman to drop the Joker off the top of the church.
Yeah.
It's like, this dude killed your parents.
Yeah.
In front of you.
Yeah.
With the nice little line of, see you around, kid.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Right. This dude, from the first moment you meet him, you're 9, 10 years old. This dude is fucking with your head.
Yep. I mean, you know what? I'm even going to say it. Yes, while I have said in this episode and, many times before, I align much more towards the supervillain than the superhero.
As do I.
And I will say that, you know what? If I go out and I kill, I steal, I cause absolute mayhem and destruction. You catch me, you lock me up. I break out, I do it again. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, I'm a fucking idiot. And
well, the
I
thing is,
keep
too,
breaking out.
you don't even need to break out.
Yeah.
You serve your sentence, you get parole.
Yeah.
You go out and do it again.
Exactly. It's a level of, as a supervillain, they're going to do what they do. While rehabilitation is an ideal concept, implementing it on a supervillain is not really the best, or it's gonna work the best.
In the real world and in many places, the comic book world, because they do sort of want to have that root in reality, it is not financially logical.
No. To keep, somebody locked up for all eternity. Especially when you have, like, somebody from DC Comics, Vandal Savage.
Right.
Okay, you're sentenced to life in prison. Dude outlives humanity. He's 50,000 years old when we encounter him in the Justice League TV series.
Right.
Yeah, let's just commit you to prison. See how that works out. So it does kind of create those issues.
Yeah.
But there are the villains out there that you can't kill. Deadpool, anti-hero.
Right.
Villainous, heroisk, whatever he is, character. Yeah, you can try and kill him. It doesn't work out too well.
Right.
So there are other characters that there's nothing you can do about it. But for the most part, most of them are just going to break out and do it again.
Right.
And if I'm a supervillain and I keep doing these things and I keep breaking out and you keep putting me back, am I going to learn anything?
Right.
Aside from how to break out better? And how to piss you off? No.
I mean, we see it in every iteration of these characters, like in the Arkham City game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You see it in even in Injustice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Crossing that line.
Some do, some don't. And the ending story for each of these characters is vastly different based on their backstory.
Yep.
I mean, if you beat it as Sinestro, he kills everybody.
Exactly. Same thing with Solomon Grundy.
Yeah. You beat it as Catwoman. No murder.
You beat his Harley.
Yeah.
More murder. Not all murder, but much more.
Significant amount.
Yeah. So it's interesting factors. Good question.
I really want to hear back
Yeah.
from the listeners on this. Please send us an email at zombieandox@gmail.com and let us know what you think.
Or on Twitter, zombieanox at zombieanox, at comiczombie679. Yeah, hit us up. Give us some feedback.
This is not just going to be a one-time discussion of this too. I think this is going to evolve into many
iterations for times to come.
Many conversations down the road, especially when we start getting some of these names coming in and talking with us.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So do you want to wrap it up for now?
I suppose so, unless there's anything else you want to discuss.
No, I think I'm good on this week's episode. Next week we're hoping to. I'm gonna have learned a lot more about the Lantern Course, and so hopefully we will talk to you guys soon on that, and let you know what's going on next week. Also, stay tuned for our Superman
spoiler-heavy review.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay.
So, until next week, Minions, also make sure to hit us up on our website, zombieandox.webs.com. From there, you can get our podcast reviews, our podcast downloads, any of our store reviews, comic reviews, and really all kinds of randomness located in one website for you.
It's all the stuff that we talk about.
Exactly.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Next week.